Welcome, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love. My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your astrology forecast for Halloween, October 31st of 2023. Yeah, that was lame. What's going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day so far. And we are going to go ahead and hop into this astrology forecast, like I said, for this Halloween, October 31st. 2023. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day so far. Figured I'd bring out a little bit of the spooky vibes here. It's Scorpio season after all, and I am your resident Scorpio astrologer. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. Well, guys, we do have, of course, that moon in Gemini, which is definitely wanting to bring some sort of mental stimulation. It is, of course, it's coming off of that square to Saturn yesterday, barreling towards the square with Neptune, but it won't quite happen today. Same thing with Venus. It is heading to a square with Venus, but it won't quite happen. It will happen pretty much right after midnight, is when that moon is going to square over to Venus. So we're not going to really see a lot of exact aspects today. The main things that we're going to be seeing is the quincunxing energy that the moon is going to continue to make to all of this Scorpio energy. Where the sun is, where Mars is, and where Mercury is. Now Mercury is leading the pack. We have to talk about that. The fact that now Mercury is moving about 1.5 degrees a day now, whereas Mars is moving at about 40 minutes a day, about 2/3 of a degree. So now Mercury is leading the pack. And we have this moon as, here in Gemini, influence, and that's where Mercury's home is in Gemini, right? So we do have the day starts off at 12 degrees of Gemini. We're going to see it, hit 13 degrees rather soon. So by the time that you guys are watching this moon is actually going to be quincunxing over to Mars, the awkward stare from across the room, as I like to call it, right? And this is definitely an interesting aspect. This is an interesting transit. Just the whole dichotomy with Gemini and in Scorpio is a very interesting one. I feel like Scorpio doesn't dislike Gemini. I think sometimes Scorpio can get annoyed by Gemini. But I don't think Scorpio per se dislikes Gemini. It's interesting too because Gemini is the 8th house to Scorpio. So I think Scorpio can actually appreciate Gemini in many ways. I think Scorpio can appreciate what Gemini is trying to do here, So I think that there's like an interesting relationship that they have. Now, Scorpio is the 6th house to Gemini, which makes it's kind of interesting. That's why I think that Gemini in many ways tries to impress Scorpio, and Scorpio isn't necessarily always impressed by Gemini energy. Just because sometimes Scorpio can kind of see Gemini as sometimes a bit juvenile, but when Gemini is like really on point with it, that's when Scorpio's like, oh, okay, no, that makes sense. It's an interesting aspect. It's an interesting dichotomy that these two energies have. So when we see this moon that's going to make this quincunx over to Mars, Mars is no longer leading the pack, but this is about kind of diving deep, trying to find that energy source. And the moon in Gemini is already very inquisitive. And, Scorpio, we forget that it's also the investigator, right? So this is about we need to kind of go within and really sees like, okay, what am I capable of? What kind of power do I really have? Just is about kind of going underneath the surface and realizing that we have so much more energy and so much more power than we realize to make it through these times. This Mars is sort of like this hidden booster, if you will, in Scorpio. And this moon quincunxing over to it. This could be a conversation that kind of brings that to light. This could be, whenever the moon goes into Gemini, um, people's thoughts can be a little bit more random and stuff like that, especially being that the moon is over our emotions and our subconscious and past life stuff. A lot of these things can start to come forward, especially on a day like Halloween, where the veil is already very thin. This can definitely, you can definitely kind of spook yourself out with your thoughts and stuff like that. But, we're being called to, realize that we don't have to allow our thoughts to just completely just drive the way that we feel, drive our emotions. And, there may be, with the quincunx, there may be a tendency to want to maybe act on these things and maybe be a little bit impulsive about it, but we kind of want to just wait and chill. We don't necessarily want to jump the gun right now. We're going to see, of course, that moon is also going to make the quincunx over to Mercury. This is going to be happening at 15 degrees around 2:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So as you can see, we get two quincunxing energies right here, right? And then it's going to be and then the moon's going to be finishing up making those aspects to Scorpio. And of course, Mercury, it rules Gemini, so it would like to be in Gemini. The moon definitely doesn't want to be where Mercury is, right? So that's the thing about this. But Mercury is leading the pack, so that's kind of the nice thing about this. Mercury is now heading towards that Pluto, but of course, we got to remember that Mercury is going to retrograde in Capricorn, right? So we're going to have a Mercury that's moving at almost full speed for the next little bit here, right? Now, this quincunxing energy, once again, like I said, this is our emotions. These are our thoughts. Our thoughts are trying to investigate with the Scorpio energy. It's about 15 degrees. It's midway through Scorpio. It's opposing the midpoint between Jupiter and Uranus, right? So we have this energy where it's like, we're trying to investigate, trying to figure out these different aspects in our lives, trying to kind of go beneath the surface, trying to figure out, what's really going on here. What's the good, we're looking for the good stuff right now, right? We're looking for, is there anything in our life? And we're looking for that buried treasure, if you will. And this moon in Gemini, like I said, it does present a bit of a trickster energy, but it's also wanting to bring light to things. It's wanting to kind of, make things a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun, a little bit more comedic. Being able to laugh at our situations, being able to laugh in our lives is very, very important. And I think, we can get very, very serious. Scorpio can get very, very serious. This moon in Gemini is kind of reminding the Mars, reminding Mercury to, not be so serious, to kind of be a little bit lighter about things, to kind of just, be able to find the humor in things too. Now, I guess it would depend upon how serious and how deep and how intense, whatever situations you have going on is, right? But we also have to remember too, is that like, this is a Scorpio season where, we're not going to get any more eclipses in Scorpio. We got the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus, but we are done with the eclipses here in Scorpio. We're not going to get them anymore. So, and we're not going to get these eclipses until the North Node comes back around. So that means we are starting like this new, fresh cycle of Scorpio energy where, now the transformation really, we have a lot of say and power in the transformation. We got to remember too, like when the nodes were here, like I said, we had that eclipse that we had last year, Scorpio, that happened at 2 degrees. That was a major one, right? We're not going to have another eclipse here, because by the time that the sun comes back around to the new moon, the sun's going to be way over here in the last decade of Scorpio. So it's going to be too far away from the south node to cause an eclipse, right? So, and we got to think about it. Scorpio has been going under major transformation, over the last 30 years, really, so we had Pluto there, of course, with the Pluto Scorpio generation. We had Saturn that was there, there was so much stuff happening in Scorpio. And now that a lot of these outer planets, these planets that move a little bit slower, now that they are further away, now that they are in Capricorn, now that they're in, or they will be coming into Aquarius with Pluto, now that Saturn is in Pisces and Neptune's in Pisces and Uranus is here in Taurus, we have a bit of a reprieve. Like, now that Scorpio can finally get to do the transformative work that it's been wanting to do for such a long time, we finally get that opportunity to do so. So that's the thing about this. Like, so take stock of this time and realize that you have an incredible opportunity to really have that Phoenix rising kind of movement. You know what I'm saying? And to, Scorpio, like I said, this is about death and rebirth. This is about the transformation. This is about our shared resources too. So, this is this place where we really want to just kind of take stock. And I think the Scorpio season is going to be a powerful one of taking stock of where we are as individuals, as communities, as a world community. Because when we head into Sag season, oh, buddy, it's going to be a holiday season to remember. It's probably not going to feel like the holidays. It probably will not feel like the holidays, because if you think you've seen some crazy shit, I ain't seen nothing yet. So days like today, seasons like this Scorpio season is allowing us to prepare for what's coming, and also realize that we have a lot more strength and a lot more gusto and emotional strength. That's the thing about Scorpio, is the emotional strength that Scorpio has to be able to move through situations, right? So, but like I said, this moon in Gemini is wanting to bring a little bit of comedy to it, bring a little bit of light energy to it. Wanted to, it doesn't have to be as heavy. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be as heavy, as deep, as dark. But you can certainly feel that way. Why? Well, we have a Saturn that's at 0 degrees of Pisces. It's going to be there for a while. We have a Neptune at 25 degrees of Pisces, which has been just a nonstop barrage of freaking just energy, propaganda, trying to get you off your flow, trying to sweep you away, all of this stuff. And it's at 25 degrees too, so you know it's spiritual in nature. It's just been a barrage of it, just one after another. And you're wondering, how in the world can we even keep up? It's hard to keep up. So we're going to see that moon come into that last decan, 20 degrees, around 11:10. So it's not going to quite square over to Neptune. It's not going to quite quincunx over to, Pluto. It's not going to quite square Venus. So as you can see with the daylight today, there's not really a whole lot of exact aspects happening. But remember that building energy still. Venus is still coming off that trine to Uranus. It'll be trining Uranus for a good portion of the day. It is still coming into that opposition with Neptune, which it will oppose Neptune in just a few days' time, right? Same with Mercury opposing Jupiter in just a few days' time. Same with the Sun about to oppose Jupiter in just a couple days' time. So as you can see, this is some building energy. Whenever you get a daylight today, it gives us an opportunity to kind of prepare and to kind of realize that we are far more capable than we realize. It gives us an opportunity to take sort of like a spiritual inventory of, where things are and how we can kind of shift things and move things around if we want to manifest something different in our life, if we want to manifest some sort of positive and uplifting change in our life. Now, granted, I think with the things that are coming, just larger scale, world scale that we're going to see, that we're going to be witnessing, I don't think there's really a way to prepare for this. I think it's like you already are. It's like you already are prepared. It's like there's only so much that you can do, because we are in the movie on life, and this movie is about to take some radical, wild turns that you just weren't expecting, that you didn't think was possible, that you didn't think was going to happen, and you could potentially get spooked. So I felt like a day like today, a day like, honestly, the last 3 to 4 days, there's been some spooky energy that's trying to spook you and knock you off your groove and knock you off your feet and try and get you to be like, well, you had to do these things because this is coming and stuff. And it's like, well, I think if there's anything that I recommend, it's just take time, slow down, chill out, meditate, and find your joy, cultivate your joy, if you will. I think these are things that are the most important. Gratitude, appreciating your loved ones, appreciating the people that you have in your life, appreciating those connections. That's really what's important too. Libra is about relationships. Scorpio is the commitment, right? So whenever the sun goes into Scorpio, we are going over our commitments. We are reevaluating our commitments, right? Because Taurus is values, but then you got to commit to those values, right? That's the Scorpio energy. That's the other side of the coin, right? People always get caught up in Libra being relationships, and Venus is, of course, the planet of love and all this sort of stuff. And that's great. It's beautiful. Scorpio, like I said, it's till death do us part. Like what we say, like what you say when you get married is like, to death do you part. That's a very Scorpionic thing right there, right? So that's the thing. It's a commitment. And it doesn't always look easy. And sometimes the emotions are deep. Sometimes the emotions are heavy. Sometimes the emotions are very icy. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing about this. If Scorpio is fixed water, which is like ice, Mercury here is like dry ice. That's pretty much what Mercury is. So it's like dry ice, which can create like a fog, right? It can create a fog. And now that Mercury is leading the way, it's kind of leaving behind this trail of fog behind it. And now with the Mars and the Sun, we have to somehow figure out how to navigate this, which is forcing us to slow down. It's forcing us to slow down. And that's actually really good, because if Mars was still leading the pack, we may find ourselves going into some very weird ass situations, you know what I'm saying, that may have us really manifesting, like I said, these situations that we just really did not foresee for ourselves, that really are going to just drag our energy down even further, maybe just like way too impulsive. I think it's good now that Mercury has moved to front of Mars. I think it's a blessing in disguise in many ways, right? Mars, of course, wants to be the leader, right? It wants to be the leader. It's Aries. It wants to just go out there and wants to be the leader, wants to take charge and do the thing. Now Mercury is in front. And like I said, a mutable air and fixed water is dry ice, which is creating a fog, which is causing us to slow down. It's setting the scene. Mercury is setting the scene, it's setting the stage for this new cycle, for this new arc of this show, of this movie, for the new act, right? And you will see this whole Scorpio season, I feel like, is kind of like a weird intermission. It's like this weird intermission in this movie that we're watching, right? And you'll really start to see it too, as like when the moon comes back around, you know what I'm saying? When, of course, like Venus will be coming into Libra too, so that's going to be the interjection of like a new character as well, a new relationship, and then of course the moon will come around, and then we'll get the new moon in Scorpio. But you can start to see things like this. Things are about to really start to pop up, and it's funny. It's like an intermission, but it's almost, the intermission is still a movie in and of itself. It's like you have the movie, and then the intermission is a short film in the middle of the movie that's providing some context to what's happening. So then you're going to, so by the time that we get back to the movie, once the sun goes into Sagittarius, when it really kicks off, when part 2 kicks off, that's when we're going to be like, oh, that's what the sun opposed Jupiter was about. That's what Venus opposed Neptune was about. Oh, snap. That is what, the sun opposed Uranus was about, and Mars opposed Uranus, and Mercury opposed Uranus. That's what all of that meant. That's what that full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus was about. Oh, it's going to start to make sense. It's going to seem at first that this little intermission that we have with Scorpio in between and like I said, the film within the film, It's going to seem irrelevant, but by the time that the sun comes into Sag and as it starts to make its way towards that solstice, things are really going to start to click. So pay attention to these moments right here. Pay attention to these moments. Be that observer, be open, but at the same time, don't necessarily allow, especially these larger geopolitical things, to come within you and hold you and keep you from living your best life, because it's meant to scare you, it's meant to knock you off your groove, it's meant to knock you off your path, and to have you not be the light worker that you are. It's meant to do that. It's meant to scare you into submission. Don't allow these energies to scare you into submission. You are far stronger than that. You're far much stronger than you realize. You are much more capable than you realize. So this is why it's the time to really focus on what can you control. You know, because Scorpio is a bit of a control freak. Let's be real. Scorpio is a bit of a control freak, right? Its third house is Capricorn, right? So definitely has to control the conversation about things. So, but what can you control, right? You can't control all these larger geopolitical things, but they're going to use that to try and control you and your energy. So what can you control? What can you do about your vibration? And that's the most important thing that I can say about the Scorpio season in general and a day like today, where there's not a lot of exact aspects that are happening besides the moon making those aspects, like I said, the quincunxing energy and stuff. It will sextile Chiron today too, which is nice. So a nice little opportunity, I would say, to really, engage with your unique superpowers. That's why I call Chiron. I call it your unique superpowers. Because, like I said, generally, if you look at any superhero origin story, it usually comes off the back of some sort of weird trauma, right? So, this could be an opportunity where you can kind of engage with that energy a bit. So, especially with the moon and Gemini here too, it's like this is a great time to write things down, to meditate, do a little bit of automatic writing, do a little bit of journaling. I think that would be a very powerful, positive thing. It's probably what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to give my best attempt to do NaNoWriMo, which NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, where in the month of November, you set like a goal. Generally, the goal is like 50,000. I'm going to go for 30,000, which is 1,000 words a day, which does not sound hard, but I've never been able to complete NaNoWriMo. Generally, you want to go for 50K, and I think the farthest I've gone was like 20 something. So I'm going to do my absolute best to do that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be starting that today, actually. I don't exactly know what I'm going to be writing, but I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. So, but anyways, let's go ahead and hop into the cards. So, let's see what we have for these spooky vibes that we got going on. Right, let's see what we got going on here. I overslept, y'all. Man, like I woke up and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's almost 10 o'clock." It was like 9:40 ish or something like that. And I was like, "Oh man, I gotta get up. I gotta make my video." It doesn't normally try to get it out a little bit earlier, but it is what it is. So I think we're gonna be putting up our Christmas tree today, actually, too. So my wife has been waiting for me, because normally I wouldn't want to put up the tree this early, but I'm like, let's put the tree up. Might as well. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's see what we got going on today. Yeah, we do have the Eight of Wands. I think we're wanting things to move faster right now. And maybe some things do pick up speed a little bit today, and that's probably just because the moon is in Gemini, and the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, is the fastest planet. Let's see what else we have. Well, we do have the Four of Swords in reverse. Yeah, we really are wanting to pick up speed. And maybe today is sort of like a call to arms. It was like, maybe you've been resting for too long. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's time to get back out there on the battlefield of life and start living life and not being afraid to live life. I think this last 3 years has been such a wash for so many people, where people are now just a shell of their former self. And I think that these last 3 years really has obviously impacted every person, on this planet. Unless you're like in some sort of tribe in like the middle of the jungle somewhere and you're completely unaware of what's going on and stuff, which might be a blessing, honestly. But it's like some people are just shells of their former self and they are afraid to live life. They're afraid to get out there. They're afraid to meet people. They're afraid to do things and actually, like I said, live life. I think this Four of Swords in reverse is like, it's time to kind of get up and get out there. You know what I mean? Bottom of the deck, we do have the Five of Wands, but it's in reverse. So yeah, we are afraid of conflict. We're afraid of getting out there. There's this element where it's like, the people are just trying to avoid the conflict in life. They're trying to avoid the strife in life. And this is a time where we kind of have to get up and get out there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, don't be afraid to live your life. Don't be afraid to, there's, well, if you were just going to be real about it, the Scorpio season, everyone's going to die. All right. Everyone's going to die. We're all going to die. Right. We're all going to die one day. Right. So we can't be afraid of death. Right. We can't be afraid of death. Right. And life can be a bit crazy. You see, humans have made it through so many different things. Plagues, wars, famines. Humans are very hardy creatures and have made it through a lot, right? So that's the thing about this. You have made it through a lot. You can get past this energy. You can get past all of this stuff. You can flow through all this, but you can't be afraid to live life. You can't just be a total shut-in. You can't just be afraid to connect with people. This is about getting out there and actually doing the work. And, of course, I do a lot of my light work through like YouTube and do it through the screen, but we got to get out there. I've been talking to some of the people at this holistic like center that I frequent, and we all agree on like we got to get out there to like the local places. Like Gemini rules like the local community. It's about getting out there, man. We gotta do the light work. We can't be afraid. We have to get up off our asses, right? We have to connect. We have to get out there. We can't just rest anymore because there's a lot of people out there that need to hear what you have to say. A lot of people out there need to witness you utilizing your unique superpowers and your unique gifts because it will inspire and motivate them to do the same. And for all you know, that person may have the cure to cancer. Although I believe that it's already out there. But they may have the cure to cancer, or they may create something, or they may go on to inspire some kid that does amazing things. You never know. This is the domino effect of life. So when we are in our vibrational integrity, it ripples out and creates this beautiful, we're all connected, this beautiful web of life. It'll ripple out, and you really don't know who it's going to affect. So you might as well enjoy life, love life, find the humor in things, but put in the work, put in the effort, and live life to the fullest. That's what it comes down to. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. That is going to be your astrology forecast for this Halloween, October 31st, 2023. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. And if you'd like to have a personal reading with me, beloved, you can follow the link in the description below to my website, jphoenix.com. And as always, y'all take care, stay blessed, have a wonderful Halloween. Be safe out there too, of course. And I'll see y'all on tomorrow's astrology forecast. Peace.